It's 4 p.m. and we're bringing you the developing news and the stories behind the headlines. This is Storycon. I'm Patrick Paez. Some stories we're watching this Friday, May 9. Vice President Sara Duterte is currently at the Department of Justice for the preliminary probe into her alleged kill remark against President Bongbong Marcos, his wife Liza, and his cousin, House Speaker Martin Romualdez. She will also submit her affidavit or her counter affidavit under oath before the DOJ. In February, the National Bureau of Investigation filed sedition and grave threat charges against her over the remarks. COMELEC is barring foreign observers, including EU delegates, from entering poll precincts on Election Day. Chairman George Garcia said only electoral board members, voters, and accredited watchers are allowed inside precincts under Philippine law. EU observers may monitor from outside, but cannot go inside the classrooms used as voting centers. President Bongbong Marcos congratulates Pope Leo XIV on his election. He expressed hope that the new pontiff will bring the church closer to the poor. He also said that Filipinos will pray for the new pope's strength as he leads with wisdom and compassion. Joining us today, Storycon's resident political pundit, Ronald Llamas, and from the Philippine Star, Editor-in-Chief, Ami Pamintuan. Hello, Ami.
Hi, Patrick. Welcome back.
Yes.
Happy weekend. Happy talaga tong weekend natin, ano?
Kaso yung kulay mo, hindi masyadong happy.
Ano to, yung fresco sa Sistine Chapel ceiling.
Oo nga.
So I guess,
Ay,
Ami,
usok.
pinuyat ka rin ba?
Hanggang 3 o'clock yata bago
Ayun.
natapos yung dyaryo, no?
So did you have to,
Pero sinaasahan naman yon, more or less, expected yung usually ganun around that time na lumalabas yung decision
So, Ami, did you have to change the layout at saka
Yes.
headlines ng dyaryo nyo for the next day ng Philippine Star? Nagbago?
Yes, binago namin. Kasi yung original, hindi muna yun kasi nga nag-aalala kami na baka nga magkaroon at 1 in the morning. Diba, medyo nakakahiya kung headline mo na wala pa.
So anong na-bump off na headline ng Philippine Star?
Malipat lang naman. Yung isang na-bump off is also a foreign story. Yung from the US na yung US judge temporarily halted yung pagdideport ng mga Pilipino and other Asian immigrants to Libya.
Oh, okay. That's a big story, no?
na-bump off. Pero
Malaking balita
page
din
1 pa
yan.
rin.
Yes, malaking balita
Yes.
rin yan, no?
To Libya?
To Libya.
Ipapadala
To
sa
Libya.
Libya.
So weird, ano?
So malaking balita na malaking epekto sa mga Pilipino pero mukhang na-bump off dahil nga dito sa pagpili ng bago Santo Papa si Pope Leo XIV.
Oo, talagang
Yes.
At saka maraming nakakakilala pala dito, nakakatanda sa kanya, no? He came here pala several times in the past years. Nagpunta pa rin sa Sinulog.
Sa Cebu, yeah.
Kaya, sa Cebu. Kaya maraming mga naglalabasan ngayon. Naghahalungkat ng mga baul nila kung ano yung mga picture doon sa mga cellphone, baka may na-save.
Medyo bata rin siya, no? Paano yung isang banat kay Cardinal Tagle, siya ay bata.
Bata raw
Pero
masyado.
yung agwat sa kanila, 2 taon lang naman.
Sino
2
lamang?
years only,
2 years lang.
Sino
2
lamang?
years.
Ha?
Sino lamang? Si Tagle?
Saan?
Mas matanda siya, no?
Mas matanda si
Tong si
Prevost.
Leo.
Prevost. Oo.
Si Leo.
Oo. Saka ano kaya yung tinitingnan natin ngayon, magiging impact ng kay Trump, Siyempre, mas masiga sa kanya ngayon yung Pope,
Hindi, tsaka critical sa kanya yan, no? Very critical sa kanya.
Oo. Kasi yung pro-immigrant yan and pro-labor, both hot issues ngayon, hot button issues in the US.
Kaya pinili niya ang pangalan na Leo dahil si Pope Leo XIII,
Pro-labor.
yung gumawa ng Rerum Novarum, na basically pro-labor, no? Kaya yun ang pinili niya dahil malapit din siya sa labor. Lalo na nung nag-work siya sa Peru. Actually, ang kanyang parang dual ang kanyang citizenship Peruvian as
He
well
has a
as
dual citizenship.
American, no? Yun yung kanyang fan.
Yes.
Ibig sabihin, yung puso niya nasa Latin America. At alam naman natin
Yes.
na ang pinanggalingan ng liberation theology ay yung Latin America. Yung tinatawag ni Pope Francis na Church from the Margins.
So they're describing this as continuity but with some moderation. A continuity
Yeah.
from
With
Pope
some
Francis with some moderation.
Yes, dahil siyempre mag-up in arms yung mga conservative kung sobrang progressive yung pipiliin, no? Katulad ng isang Francis of Asia.
Right.
No? At the same time, ito ay malapit kay Francis. At yung
At the same
ethos, yung spirit
Yes.
Nandun pa rin.
ng ideology ni Francis ay dala-dala niya.
So, given that, Ronald, Cardinal Tagle's strong association with Pope Francis, as the Asian Francis,
Yeah.
may have worked against him.
To some extent. To some extent. Para...
Kasi he would
Pero
have
close din to
carried
kay Francis,
further
This-
some of the more progressive views
Yeah.
of Pope Francis. Parang ganun lumalabas.
It's about perception. Ang tawag sa kanya, the Asian Francis. Si Pope Leo the
Close
14,
din to eh. This guy is also close to
malapit
Pope
din siya kay
Francis.
Francis. Pero hindi siya yung tinatawag na the Latin American Francis, o hindi siya ginaganon, no? Siya ay medyo siya cool, chill, no? Yung pwede niya kausapin lahat. Parang si Parolin, yung Secretary of State.
Kaya nga, compromise siya.
Oo,
Saka
kaya-
kita mo naman sa itsura lang niya, oh. He's not eschewing, hindi ka pareho ni Pope na ayaw isuot yung mga,
Right.
yung mga costume ng Papa, no? Ito,
Costume
traditional
talaga,
yung damit niya. Di ba? And he spoke Italian instead of English, American English.
Polyglot
Italian
siya.
saka Espanyol siya.
Yeah, he speaks several languages fluently.
Yeah.
At mathematician yan, mathematician. Yung
Oo
kanyang
nga,
training.
galing, mathematician.
So meron siyang rigor, discipline ng isang mathematician. At the same time, a diplomat who can speak in their own language. Dahil polyglot siya. No?
And one article I read, I think it was in the New York Times, it's been described that in contrast to Francis or to Pope Francis,
Yeah.
medyo mas traditional yung views ng Pope neto when it comes
Yes.
to LGBT community. Where Francis said, who am I to judge?
Yes.
This Pope or this Cardinal had more conservative or traditional views towards the gay community.
On social issues, ay katulad niya si Pope Francis. On other issues, like LGBTQI, mas open si Pope Francis kumpara sa kanya.
Yeah.
Although, tignan natin itong mga susunod na buwan kung ano yung mga magiging pronouncement niya, no?
Yung kanya bang
Kasi
pagiging
men-
American Pope, first American Pope, ever,
Yes,
no?
yes.
First American.
Will that matter? Is that a significance,
Baka
significant,
secondary yun eh. Mas
detail?
ang primary ay he can be a bridge from both conservatives and progressives. Mas baka yun ang dominant na at least hindi ko isa-second guess yung mga cardinal kung paano dahil Holy Spirit yan eh. No? Pero pwedeng na, at the back of their minds, pwede nitong ma-prevent yung possible schism ng simbahan.
Okay.
Schism.
You mentioned a while ago Pope Leo XIII, no, who was known to have parang helped transition the Catholic Church from the past into the world of modernity, kung tawagin.
Yes.
I know you've used that word a lot, no?
Yes.
Modernity, meaning to say back in the 1800s, modernity, the world was moving towards more humanistic,
That was,
centered thinking and all that.
1890. I think 1890,
More liberal democracy, more liberal views.
Yes.
So, I guess by adopting the same name, Leo, it shows his own appreciation of his role at this time
Exactly.
in the world.
Exactly.
Na may transition din tayo
Kaya
to something
kaya
unknown.
pinili niya yung Leo ay pagpapatuloy nung criticism ni Pope Francis ng global capital against
Social,
workers.
ano yan, no?
Kaya may ganung
Social
klaseng
justice.
ayun, yung social justice issue. May continuity siya ron. At the same time, yung karanasan niya sa Latin America.
Right. He may be a so-called superpower pope dahil Amerikano ka, no? Pero his missionary work in Peru, I won't say third world country, no? Gives him that balance. So I guess
Yes.
a more balanced perspective of things and his work as a pope.
Clearly, itutuloy niya yung synodality ni Pope Francis. Yung synodality, yung
Ang
journey.
kinumusta nga niya, yung Peru, hindi naman niya binanggit ang US at all. Ang kinumusta niya dyan sa unang-una niyang Peace Be With You speech niya, si Peru, it wasn't the US.
Oo.
You think there's something into that, Ronald? Baka kasi medyo
Siguro,
masama
ayaw
dating pag na-highlight yung pagiging Amerikano niya, gano'n, di ba?
Lalo na, hindi lang siya Amerikano, galing siya sa Chicago.
Yun,
di ba?
oo.
Which is,
Oo nga.
for a long time, very conservative. No? Yun yung,
Yes.
kaya baka magkaroon ng ibang perception. Kaya in-emphasize niya was Latin America.
And he spoke in Latin.
Yes.
We didn't hear that American twang, that
Yeah,
American
yeah.
English in his speech.
Yeah,
No?
yeah.
I guess
Italian,
it matters.
Spanish.
Those things matter. Those little details would matter, Ronald. No, Ami?
Yes. Yung mga detalye na yan, tama. Yung napansin ni Ami kanina, yung suot
ngayon ko
niya.
lang nalaman, yung una pa lang Pope Leo, while they're highlighting na he can be a diplomat, yung una pa lang Pope Leo, nag-negotiate siya kay Attila Dahan.
Yun.
Sa magpapasok sa Rome. Interesting, ano?
Hindi naman niya siguro kinausap yung asawa ni Attila Dahan. Paano yun ang naglason kay Attila? He was poisoned by the wife.
Nag-negotiate daw kaya galing, galing.
So meron ding legacy na geopolitical pope.
Pwede.
At the time of a world in conflict, parang gano'n, di ba?
Pwede, oo. Kaya,
may emphasis siya actually sa peace, di ba? Kahit siya sa speech niya.
pero,
May emphasis siya sa peace,
I think
global peace.
he's the second non-European pope in so many 100 years. No? Siya yung, yeah.
Dali,
Second
nakikita.
na from the Americas.
Dito na yung ating
Ami, reunion to.
Dito
Susunod
na
natin na guest.
Yes.
Special guest.
Will be a reunion. Ito, nakasama namin ni Ronald sa school, sa UST. Pero nakasama mo ata to sa Malacanang. Okay. Man of the hour. Kasi
ganda nung kanyang article.
Kasi he supposedly, Ami, correctly predicted. Very specific that it would be Cardinal Prevost.
Parang Washington Times.
Oo nga.
Saka New York Times, lumabas din nun yung ganun So,
Anong description niya sa sarili niya? Vaticanologist. Tanongin natin ano ibig sabihin niya. Saan niya nakuha yun? If there's such a thing. Pero nabasa ko yun kanina. Okay, let's bring in Lito Zalweta, a journalism professor at the Pontifical University of Santo Tomas, formerly an editor of the Philippine Daily Inquirer. Lito, long time no see.
Hi, Lito.
Hi, Lito. Di mo na ako Lito, di mo na ako.
Lito, binasa ko yung article mo, Ganda ng article mo,
Lito, di mo na ako iniimbita sa reunion ng Barsitarian,
Naimbita ka the last time. It was only
That was
2 years ago. Last
3
year,
years,
2 years ago.
3 years
We'll
ago.
have another reunion
Naniningil
after this January.
Pareho kayong Barsitarian ni Lito, Ami
Before we proceed with our interview with Lito, I just want to read a line or a few lines from the article that he wrote for the Philippine Daily Inquirer. I think, Lito, this was how many days ago? Before the conclave, before the white smoke?
Yesterday or the other day?
Yeah, the other day. Yeah.
Recent lang yan, recent.
So, okay. Ito yung, medyo sa bullseye na sinulat niya. Yet perhaps the religious cardinal elector with the strongest prospects is Cardinal Robert Prevost. An Augustinian, an American by birth, Prevost has deep missionary roots in Latin America, having served in Peru and even acquired Peruvian citizenship. So, perhaps the religious cardinal with the strongest prospect. You called it for Cardinal Prevost. Lito,
ano yung
I'm sure this
pinanggalingan
is more
mo?
than guesswork.
Ano yung pinanggalingan mo? Ano yung hugot mo? At na predict mo yan, Professor Lito.
Well, the article is titled "The Rise of Religious Orders." So the papacy of Pope Francis, who was a Jesuit, saw the rise of religious orders, like the Augustinians, the Redemptorists, even the Dominicans. So, but the question poses the question: amid the rise of the religious orders, will the next pope be another Jesuit? So, will he come from the Jesuit order again? And I said it there in my article. Do not count on it. Do not count on it. But since there is the rise of the religious orders, titingnan mo dun sa cardinal electors who are the members of the religious orders that could be papabiles, that could be papal contenders.
Na hindi Jesuit. Or Jesuit trained.
There were 4 Jesuit cardinal electors, but I don't think the cardinal electors, College of Cardinals, we're looking for another Jesuit to head the papacy. So I was looking for other members of religious orders, no. But the choice of itong mga religious orders would hinge on the choice of who were the leading papabiles. The leading papabiles were secular clergy, and Vatican insiders, namely Cardinal Pietro Parolin and Cardinal Tagle. They were Vatican insiders, no? Talagang may 1 foot inside na yung mga Vatican insiders, no? Yung mga the members of the Pope's cabinet, no? Kasi nga you're looking for somebody to head the universal church, no? But the thing going against Parolin and Tagle was that they were identified too much with Pope Francis.
Yes.
So I was looking for somebody, a Vatican insider, who is also a Vatican outsider. So I wrote that this morning for cover story in Chato Garceliano, no? So I identified Cardinal Prevost as a Vatican insider, but at the same time a Vatican outsider. Kasi he only came to the Vatican in 2023, less than 2 years ago. He was uprooted from his poor diocese in Chiclayo, Peru, to be brought to the Vatican by Pope Francis to head the dicastery of bishops. So the dicastery of bishops is very, very important, very, very influential yan. Kasi it screens the nominees, the candidates for bishoprics. And then, of course, the head of the dicastery recommends to the Pope who will be appointed bishops. No? The bishops who are the magisterium of the church, no? The teaching authority of the church. No? So, in those 2 years, we could already detect na kilala na si Prevost sa mga cardinal electors, no? Kasi many of them siya nag-screen, no? And of course, outsider din siya kasi missionary siya, Augustinian missionary. His work in the missions, no? Both north and south, no? So outsider din siya, no? And in fact, I think that also appealed to Pope Francis, no? A fellow religious, no? Fellow religious. And I'm pretty sure they worked in the mission fields of Latin America before. So makakilala na sila. So an Augustinian insider in the Vatican is also an outsider. It's also an outsider kasi nga you look at the Jesuit order, it's a modern order. The Augustinian order is a far older order, no? It's a mendicant order of friars, no? Yeah. And 13th century, no? Yung 13th century, the medieval ages, which saw the mendicant orders, the Franciscans, the Dominicans, the Carmelites, no? And this mendicant order of friars would be more orthodox, would be more conservative. So I presume that the cardinal electors would be wanting someone that would continue with the Francis papacy, the reforms of the Francis papacy, but at the same time restoring yung doctrinal clarity, orthodoxy of the previous popes, the popes previous to Pope Francis, namely Pope Paul VI, Pope John Paul II, and Pope Benedict XVI. No, so and that is why even if he is an insider, he is an outsider, he would appeal to the other cardinal electors who would be suspicious of the Vatican or who would be suspicious or at the same time medyo distant sa legacy ni Pope Francis. So he appealed to both the Francis supporters and at the same time those who would like to somehow put a break to the pastoral activism of Pope Francis and connect yung pastoral initiatives and reforms to doctrinal orthodoxy. And that is Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost. No?
Okay, so he got votes from both sides.
Yes.
Parang ganun.
Napag-usapan nga namin, Professor Lito, yan, several times dito ni Ami at ni Ed Lingao. Although hindi yung pangalan niya ang lumalabas naman ay the theory na ang posibleng mapili ay a liberal moderate who can link both the conservatives and the progressives and all the others, no, to unify the church. Sabi mo nga, medyo lagyan ng break yung pastoral activism ni Pope Francis, pero at the same time ay wag iwakse yung traditional dogma and beliefs ng mga previous popes, no? So ganung klase yung balancing. Like for example, hindi lang namin nabanggit yung pangalan. Mas si Parolin kasi yung frontliner na kumakatawan sa ganung klaseng ethos. Parang linking both, yung acceptable sa pareho. At siyempre, si Chito Tagle ay mas nandun sa progressive, mas nandun sa activism ni Pope Francis. Pero si Pope Leo, mismo sa pagpili niya ng kanyang pangalan, ay clearly umuugnay siya sa rerum novarum na very alive sa Latin America like Peru. No? May ganung klaseng link siya. At pinagpapatuloy niya yung synodality ni Pope Francis. Diba?
Yeah.
Pinagpapatuloy na yan. No? At yung church from the margins ni Pope Francis. Pero at the same time, meron siyang mga conservative values na mini-maintain na mas inclusive ang tingin ni Pope Francis. Like halimbawa, LGBTQI. Yeah, very very strong yung kanyang position diyan. No, kaya yung iba binabanatan siya tungkol diyan, lalo na yung mga woke katulad ni Patrick, no? Yung mga pero at this point, ang tanong siguro ay Lito ay ito bang ganitong klaseng balancing? Ito ba yung kailangan ngayon ng simbahan in this modern day and age? Yan ba or is it a step backward?
Is he the Pope for our times? Yun.
Well, the fact that there have been disgruntled elements doon sa style ni Pope Francis, and even those supporters of Pope Francis would prefer a little balance, would prefer a little balance, no? Should indicate that the mood, at least of the College of Cardinals, is for someone who can provide that delicate balance. Ngayon ang question is, yung delicate balancing act timely ba yon? Will apply at this time na you need to push on mga pastoral initiatives, you need to press on with all of these reforms, no? Considering all of the challenges facing the church, including geopolitical challenges. Well, that remains to be seen, no? But for the College of Cardinals, they look at Pope Leo XIV as the best person to
Balance.
to embody the church's need to provide a delicate balance to all of this mga forces that basically would be centrifugal, no? Centrifugal at the same nagkakaroon ng certain messing up, nagkakaroon ng certain chaos, no? So I think you have to give credit din kay Pope Francis dahil with the doctrinal clarity provided by the previous papacies, he tried to push the envelope, no? So some of the critics din naman ni Pope Francis masyadong rigorist, no?
Pero Professor Lito, dahil predict mo na rin naman na most probably siya yung magiging Pope, ano yung prediction mo, fearless forecast, ano yung kanyang magiging initial defining policies at saka mga to define his ideology or encyclicals in the future? Dahil nga may mga antagonistic differences din ng simbahan. Halimbawa, meron kang mga cardinal na talagang ayaw isama sa simbahan yung mga LGBTQI. Meron kang mga cardinals talaga na ayaw ipakomunyon ang mga divorcee na babae. Lalaki pwede, pero yung babae hindi. So may mga ganun kang mga antagonistic contradictions. How will he define himself? Batay dito sa mga contradictions na ito na nagbubungguan na hindi na very antagonistic, no? Ibig sabihin very polarized.
he will provide a more nuanced position on divorcees, no, Catholic divorcees. No, there will be, I think, a continuation of the Franciscan initiative to reach out to Catholic divorcees. As for the LGBTQ, that will be a more contentious issue kasi you're confronted with the African bishops who insist that
Conservative.
culture and morality should be considered in whether or not to apply yung provisions ng fiducia supplicans giving non-liturgical blessings to homosexual couples, no, to homosexual unions. So,
Dito yung sa role of
that will be a more
women.
contentious issue.
Anong magiging niya? Anong magiging posisyon kaya niyan sa role of women? Kasi medyo nag-open din si Pope
I
Francis
think
doon.
it is for synodality, no? So
Yes.
synodality will continue and it will include women, no? Meron na mga women heads of Vatican dicasteries, Vatican
Yes,
ministries.
dicastery.
That will continue kasi he's an Augustinian. Merong women's branch ang Augustinian order, no? In fact, I think one of the biggest congregations of Augustinian women religious in the Philippines, no? Even in Cebu, we have mga contemplative Augustinian nuns, no? And in fact, yung spirituality center ng Augustinian sa Cebu, it was built by Father Prevost in I think 2010 or 2011. So I think synodality will continue. The reaching out to women, making them participate in the church government will continue. I don't know about definitely walang women priests, but I think there will be consideration about women deacons kasi
Yes.
he's an Augustinian, no? And the Augustinians run the Augustinianum, the Patristics Institute in Rome, no? Which is there, no, sa building ng mga Augustinian ngayon. Among the tenants would be the Philippine Embassy to the Vatican, and then of course top the Augustinianum, that's the curie of the Augustinians. Yun yung nire-rent out ng mga media, especially the television stations, so that they could take shots of the of important functions in the Piazza de San Pietro. So yung Augustinianum is a patristics institute, no? It studies the early fathers of the church, and I think even Cardinal Pablo, who is a biblical scholar, would agree na in the early Christian church there were women deacons, no? And in fact ini-study yun ng International Theological Commission the possibility of naming women as deacons, no? As permanent deacons, permanent deacons. So that's parang semi-priesthood na yun, semi-priesthood.
Yes. Prof. Lito, how about the very controversial issue ng sexual abuses within the church na medyo transparent naman si Pope Francis at self-critical, pero ang criticism sa kanya, he didn't go far enough para ito ay itigil or litisin yung mga ng abuso ng mga pare at even bishops.
I'll add to that lang dito, no? I understand he was a cardinal in Chicago, and there has been an episode in Chicago where there were a number of priests accused of sexual abuse, and there's an article that came out saying that he may have been slow in investigating this case.
Medyo na bankrupt, almost ma-bankrupt yung Diocese ng Chicago sa pagbayad sa mga biktima ng sexual abuse.
So is that gonna hurt or damage him?
Well, all of these issues will be raised now, no? But yung sexual abuse cases that he handled, not as a priest from Chicago, no? He's Chicago-born, but yung mga cases niya are connected with his being prior general of the Augustinians and then Bishop of Chiclayo in Peru, no? In the case of yung being prior general of prior provincial of the Augustinians, and then prior general of the Augustinians in Latin America. There was a case in which he allowed a friar, a conferer, a conferer to stay in the religious house, and the religious house was near a Catholic school. No, so they were saying that he should the friar should have been banished, no, or removed from remove remove banished to a religious house far from a Catholic school. So pero wala namang nangyaring abuso do sa Catholic school, no. It's just that he allowed the priest to stay in the religious house, no. And then of course there was another case, pero it was already agreed upon by the canon lawyers from both sides, no, from the accused and the victim. And then of course he only had to sign the settlement as prior provincial or prior general, no. So some of these are ministerial, no. There is no direct evidence that he was negligent in removing from harm's way a friar or a confrerer that would be that was accused of sexual abuse, no. As for on the one hand, it's always a concern yung abuse ng sexual abuse, child abuse ng mga clergy, no. But you mentioned Pope Francis, although he was although he tried to reach out to the victims and then tried to come up with policies that would really penalize, sanction all of these priests. He didn't go far enough. The point is that there would be the Episcopal Conference, no? There would be the scattered dioceses. No? Yung mga National Episcopal Conference, they're doing their own investigation. Of course, per diocese, they're confronting all of these cases. No? So you can only give certain, the Vatican can only give certain policies, certain guidelines, no? And we must remember that all of those guidelines, those policies happened during kay Ratzinger when he was a doctrinal watchdog, no. It was really Ratzinger, later Pope Benedict XVI, who really came up with all of these reforms and policies in order to check yung child abuse. And one of those policies would be for the Episcopal Conference to really investigate all of these cases. No, some of these cases, many of these cases, na-resolved na. Some of them remain undone. It's always like that. No, sa mga especially sa mga states and governments, they do their own investigation. No, and then of course they try to have the cooperation of the clergy of the dioceses. No. But many of these cases, patay na yung clergy, no. So in the Philippines, no, of course, we're still doing our investigation, no. So siguro yun ay follow up niya sa Episcopal Conference natin sa CBCP.
How
was the investigation gone?
Nung nagsalita nga ako sa CBCP General Assembly last January sa Santa Rosa, yun yung main team, transparency in relation dito sa pinag-uusapan natin. Kaya ibig sabihin, very, very open sila at very forward-looking dito sa dahil gusto nilang tanggalin yung taint nito, no, at very supportive diyan si Pope Francis.
Lito, what do you think will be the first initiatives of this Pope?
Well, the first initiative will be of course he will be very, very conscious that to portray his papacy as a continuity of Pope Francis, no.
On what area?
Dito halimbawa sa geopolitics. Kasi recently, criticize niya si J.D. Vance. And he's an American, pero ngayon papa na siya. Siya na yung Pope. You think he will put on the brakes?
J.D. Vance, he reposted this
yes.
tweet, no?
Mahilig siya mag-post sa X, di ba? Babawasan ba yon?
He will you must understand, no, yung how would I put it, no? There is during Pope Francis' time there was a certain tension between the papacy and the U.S. bishops.
Yes.
No. So, yung mga US bishops, do they generally support yung massive deportation under Trump? Do they support Trump? We have to be frank. I think they generally support it in the sense that talaga naman the size of illegal immigrants in the US let in by the border policy by Biden, open border policy, 7 million to 13 million. It has posed a public safety and national security concern. That's one, no? And at the same time, it has caused a certain fiscal chaos, no? Kasi nga, you need to support all of these illegal immigrants, no? Nevertheless, the church, yung mga bishops, they try to stem yung massive deportation by providing legal advice to the illegal immigrants, no, to challenge yung ISIS, no, when during deportation proceedings, no. So
Ngayong papa na siya, magagawa pa ba niya yan? He's now the Pope.
ngayong papa na siya, I think,
Dadahan-dahan ba siya?
I think he will have to work closely with the US bishops. No. I take note that the head of the US Bishops Conference is the military chaplain, no, the head military chaplain of the US Armed Forces, no. So basically conservative yun. Basically, most of the bishops of the United States conservative sila.
Yes.
No?
Pero
So
si
that will,
pero si Pope Leo very pro-migrant yan. No? Mas yung burden of proof
he will
ay
he will provide a certain corrective to the excesses of Trump's immigration policy, and at the same time the bishop's distaste of the former Democrat policy na basically anti-church, anti-Catholic.
Yes, but being a long-serving pastor in Latin America, dati may mga statements siya na ito namang migration, halimbawa sa border, is because of the relationship in the past ng US dito sa Latin America. Na sobra sila naghirap, kaya yung kanilang reverse invasion is a result of that. So may ganun siyang appreciation si Pope Leo, na meron tayong historical scene na ginawa sa Latin America na humirap sila mayaman dapat sila, at kaya sila pumupunta rito. Kaya very sensitive siya ron doon sa ganung klaseng historical injustice.
Alam mo Lito, nung napiling Pope to si Cardinal Prevost, nagsulputan yung mga picture niya when he visited here in the Philippines.
Sa Cebu.
Twice, kasi
Dami
Pope din sa should we put any weight on this? I mean, is there, I guess, in the minds of Filipinos, what they'd like to know, will there be a special place for Filipinos in Pope Leo XIV?
Yes, definitely. The Augustinians in the Philippines would be one of the biggest provinces of the Augustinian order. So, and most of the important activities, Asian activities of Augustinian missions, have been usually held in Cebu. No? Kasi in Cebu yung Curia, yung headquarters ng Philippine Augustinian Province. The province is known as the Philippine Province of Santo Niño de Jesus. No? Kaya Cebu is the cradle of Christianity in the Philippines.
Right.
No?
Is San Carlos part of that? Sorry.
Again?
San Carlos University part of that? Is it Augustinian?
San Carlos is SVD.
Oh, okay.
San Carlos is SVD. But of course, yung nagsimula yung San Carlos as a university of the Jesuits, but the Jesuits were expelled in the 18th century, and in the 19th century, the SVD pinagpatuloy na yung San Carlos, and then of course it became a university. Okay. So in any case, yung Augustinians sa Philippines have a very storied storied history, and it's quite one of the most accomplished provinces, kasi they were the first missionary order, and the first Augustinian missionary here was Andres de Urdaneta, who was a navigator, So Andres de Urdaneta, I think, first came to the Philippines during the Loaiza or Loaiza expedition. So when he came back here during the Legazpi expedition in 1565, he had already joined the Augustinians, no? So he was the first to discover. He was the one to discover the Tornaviaje, how to return to Mexico from Spain, no? How to cross the Pacific, no, and get back, no. So
Galleon trade.
Yeah, no, that's right, Andres de Urdaneta. Of course, there are other Augustinian engineers, scientists who worked here in the Philippines. So very storied yung achievements sa mga Augustinians, and they're mainly concentrated sa Cebu, and that's why madalas dun si Father Prevost, which is not to say he hadn't been to other places in the Philippines, no. He had been to Binyan, he had been to Mindanao, no, kasi may mga Augustinian missions doon. Binyan, merong Colegio de San Lorenzo. Of course, he had celebrated Mass at San Agustin, no, which is under the Spanish Augustinians, no. So he's met a lot of Filipinos, no. And even in Rome, no, sa Augustinianum, he had ordained Filipino Augustinians, no. So he's close to Filipinos, no? So yun ang maganda dito sa Pope na to, no. He's exposed himself Asia, Africa,
Latin America,
all the regions of the world, no. So siya, may missionary spirit siya, and he will continue yung Franciscan initiative to reach out to the peripheries.
Okay, thanks for joining the Storycon, Lito Sulweta, journalist and professor at the Pontifical University of
Thanks,
Santo
Lito.
Tomas.
Sana, Lito, ay mas maging accessible ka sa amin para magkaroon naman tayo dito ng reunion.
Oh, yun. So,
I will try to be. I've made myself available for interviews as a public service and as a service to the church.
Inimbita ka na ba? Inimbita ka na ni Glenda sa Rappler?
Well, naimbita na ako sa bilyonaryo. Naulat na sa Rappler. Ando si
Parang
Paterno Makel.
Parang hindi close ang Rappler at saka bilyonaryo. Ang intriga pa.
Okay, maraming salamat, Lito.
Okay, sige.
Salamat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're watching Storycon on One News. We just need to take a quick break, but we will be right back. We've got the developing news and the stories behind the headlines. Welcome back to the Story Conference. I'm Patrick Paez. And still with us, Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star and Ronald Llamas, our political pundit. Okay.
Generic nung ano mo
Ayan, okay.
description mo.
Kapanood mo na yan, Ami?
Ito.
Papakita ni Patrick.
We just want to show you a very interesting political ad just came out today, I think. Padala ni Ronald to. Can we see it?
Ang gobyerno ngayon ay hindi Marcos. Ang gobyerno ngayon ay Romualdez at Araneta. Payo ni VP, magpalit na raw ako ng apelyido. Sagot ko, Inday, hindi ko kailangan magpalit ng apelyido. Marcos ako. I'm me. Ako ay ako. Ako ay si Aimee Marcos. At kapag Marcos ka, hindi ka makikipag-alyansa sa mga politikong nagbintang, nagdiin, at umapi sa iyong pamilya. Hindi mo kakainin ang isinuka mo para lamang sa politika. Hindi ganyan ang legasiya ng aking ama.
Well,
Okay.
Mas compelling yan kaysa doon sa kanyang itim ad.
Yun.
Parang walang impact yung itim ad niya na yun. Ang problema, yung itim ad tsaka yan, medyo late na eh. Hindi ka gumagawa ng bagong message last 2 weeks ng kampanya. Yung messaging ay last year, before the official campaign, at yung first 2 months.
Three
ng
days
campaign.
away.
Yeah, practically 2 dahil weekend na eh. Weekend na eh, Lunes na, botohan na eh. Yung mga tao ngayon, ang dominant ngayon is machinery. No? Clinching yung mga boto ng mga governors sa mga primate corridor, sample ballots. Hindi na yung mapapansin ng tao eh. Hindi na yung mapapansin. Sayang
Compelling,
lang,
but too late.
Yeah. Kumpara sa iba. Kumpara sa iba. Tingin ko meron yung negative positive eh. Dahil, siyempre, nagmarka na binabanata mo yung kapatid mo eh. At para sa mga maraming Pilipino na conservative ay walang ganyan, walang public na banata.
So if this is not going to help, in your view, no, is this going to hurt?
Tingin ko balance sheet, it might hurt. No? Inahantay ko yung endorsement ng iglesia, nakasama siya. no? For the first time, 8 lang i-endorse ng iglesia. At for the first time, 4 doon ay hindi siguradong mananalo.
Is she in that short list na umiikot ngayon?
Yeah,
Nandun.
she is.
Yeah.
No? Medyo weird yung list na yun.
Although, confirmed ba yun? Alam mo naman ng iglesia, hindi naman niya nagpapangalan.
Well, until it happens.
They will need to officially
Yeah.
officially
They
confirm
never
it.
officially acknowledge that list.
Hindi yan
Never,
nagpapangalan.
right?
Hindi,
Kahit sa presidential.
maglalabas sila ng list. Hindi ko na alam kailan. No? Kaya nga
Meron
sabi
na
ko,
yun
until it happens, it didn't happen.
But
Pero I have it in good information.
Hindi,
Na
meron mga sample balot na nagsisirculate. Kaya lang nga, kailangan mo ng verification, which they never do actually. Meron ng mga nagsisirculate na nandun si Bongo, si Bato, si Marcoleta, of course, who is an INC member, si Aimee, si
Villar,
Camille Villar,
and Bam Aquino.
Pia Cayetano, si Bam Aquino number 1,
Bam Aquino, tsaka
which is
si
strange.
Bong Revilla.
Saka si
Bong Revilla.
Bong Revilla.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking about Bam Aquino in that INC list, in that supposed INC
Number
list,
1 si Bam Aquino.
May
Hindi
ano
natin alam kung ano siya.
may umiikot din,
Kung
Ami.
officially confirmed.
Okay, may umiikot
Hindi
din
natin
apparently.
alam
That doesn't sit well with the rest of the pink community. The Bam Aquino
Yes.
endorsement.
Yeah,
The INC
bago kasi nangyari ito, may lumabas na parang endorsement ni Lenny. Parang na sinabi niyang Senator Marcoleta. Although binakpedal ni
Quid
Lenny.
pro quo? Parang ganon?
Yun ang sinasabi ng mga iba. Pero ang paliwanag ni Lenny ay nangyari ito a month ago. At ang sabi naman ng iba, non sequitur. Pinakilala mo pa rin as Senator
Okay,
si Marcoleta.
so parang ganito yung ibig sabihin ng na quid pro quo, no? Lenny endorses Marcoleta, who's INC, and now we're seeing, or we're hearing, that INC
Aquino.
endorses Bam Aquino for Senator. Parang ganon yung...
Well, could be,
Scratch your back,
pero ang sagot niya ni Lenny, walang ganyan.
Okay.
Pero perception is reality.
Yes, okay. Thanks for
Pero yung
joining.
kay Aimee, di ba magulo? Magulo yung messaging.
Medyo.
Okay. Ami, malalaman natin sa Lunes. Thank you for joining the Storycon today. Ami Pamintuan, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star, and Ronald Llamas, our resident political pundit. Join the Storycon again on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Monday, May 12, is our
Monday.
Bilang Pilipino 2025 special rolling coverage. Stay tuned to One News, One PH, and News 5. I'm Patrick Paez, and we are One News. All sides, all the time.